Hi and good morning. Kathy here from KathysKuteKreations. First off, let me tell you, when I started the Simply Spring last week, I did not have the fabric chart, which tells you what all the different fabrics are. And I had a couple of them mixed up because I didn't know there was a fabric chart until they all came out. And that's when I discovered that. So going forward here, I fixed the squares that I had incorrect. And this is week 2. Here's what you should have downloaded. It's 2 pages. Okay? And we are going to make half square triangles. And based on that, I will show you how to use a regular ruler as well as a block lock ruler. All right? In case you have one and that's what you like to use. Or you don't have it yet and you don't know anything about it. And yes, Fort Worth Fabric Studios does carry this square, and I will show you what I've got from them. Alrighty, here's the fabric guide that I was talking about. I had C and G mixed up. So I've got them fixed now. Week, and there's our half square triangles, as I said. They're going to be super duper easy to make. This is the block lock that I was just talking to you about. Okay, so here's the rulers that I use. Now, you can use this, which is rectangle ruler. I've used that before, but now I go with the squares because I've bought square rulers. Now these blocks start out at 5-inch, and the good thing about Fort Worth Fabric Studio is they always make sure your blocks start out larger and then you literally downsize them. So that is washi tape, and you can use the painter's tape also. It's just that I get a lot of these in different boxes and stuff. So you can mark your ruler as to the size, and when I get to that point I will show you. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put some of our blocks together. So they want us to take block A, which is the white, to block B, and we're going to do that first. I have all my fabric laid out here on this little bitty design board. It's just one of those little small ones. This is all week 2 of the Fort Worth Fabric Simply Spring, in case I didn't introduce that to begin with. I hope this works because I am having all kinds of issues with the camera. And I don't know why. The volume won't stay on, so I hope we actually have volume today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple of these squares to get you started, and you all are going to finish yours because they're all the same way. Alrighty, so I use a 2.5-inch strip, and like I said, I've been having some lighting problems, so I'm trying to turn lights on in this room. But it doesn't, doing the filming part doesn't look like I have enough lighting in here. But all my lights are on, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. I don't know if it's trying to adjust for the light or what exactly it's doing. But we're just going to go with it. But like I said, I always use a 12-inch needle. I always do 2.5-inch stitch unless it's indicated otherwise or I feel like my fabric's too thick. And we just go around the whole entire square. Let me make it so that lifts up. There we go. And then when we get done, we will cut it and we will make 4 out of here. So these will be, I'm not quite sure what size they are. Probably about, let's back that up. Probably close to 3 inches, I'm going to guess. Based on the little 2.5-inch squares that we've had to cut out, or 2 3/4, excuse me. Based on those, I'm going to guess these got to be about the same size. So, but like I said, we're going to get 4 out of here. Hopefully my hands are not in the way. I gotta go another. There we go. And if you gotta mark yours with some type of marking tool because you're not adequate with your 1/4 inch yet, go ahead and do it. That's what I did when I first started. Everything was marked with a pencil, actually. We used pencils back when I started. All right, let's just go ahead and I'm gonna start on the next one. And if you want a pen or you want to clip yours, by all means do that. Whatever's most comfortable and easy for you. Don't be in a rush, just take your time. You know, put your favorite music on if you want to. A TV show. I need to really get me a television set up here so when I'm busy making things, I've got something to listen to. Other than all my YouTube video friends, sometimes I like to have a TV show on. Because I find that when I'm watching my YouTube, I constantly look up, so I'm getting less done. Oh, it said my bobbin thread's about empty. But anyway, I have been doing a lot of pieces for my son to send to Florida. He has once a month they have a like a craft sale. I want to call it that. I think it's for the VFW, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so I'm making him things, and he said that they really like the bow cozies down there, and the mug rugs. And my daughter-in-law has made some kind of pain, I don't know if it's a salve or what it is that she's got, but I'm going to get him to get me some, because boy, when I'm up here and I'm turning the bow cozies, my arthritis kicks in. I didn't realize I had it so bad. Of course, you know, when you do yard work and everything, it all affects you. Heck, I was moving furniture earlier yesterday. We took my old couch out to the dump, and oh my gosh, I think I hurt my hip. So, of course, that hurt last night. And I stubbed my toe on a brick. I put and I know this sounds crazy, but I took bricks and wrapped them in a towel and then put them up against the wall so that my couch would not touch my wall, because I didn't want that. You know how you have whenever you have your furniture up against the wall, you end up getting it scraped. Like every time you sit down on it, it moves and shifts on you, and then you end up getting that line whatever you had up there. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to do that to my wall. And so the bricks are just your regular bricks. And I had 4 of them because I had a great big huge long couch. I measured my couch, and it was 110 inches long, I believe, from one end to the other. And it was 2 pieces. So they were 55 a piece. And I knew that because I had to measure my porch to find out whether it would fit on the porch when I took it out. And I thought me and my granddaughter were going to take it out, but we didn't take it out. The guys came over and beat us to it, but I had to move it away from the wall. And of course, you know, all the stuff that's in your living room, I had to move all that in order to get the couch out. So that's my problem. And it was just me, because she wasn't even here. She was at Six Flags. So, all right, let's go. I'm going to show you what I do next. Now, I did iron this before I started. I'm using my rotating mat to cut this with. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. And I always use a ruler longer so that it extends over both pieces of the fabric. And I'm not so much on the fabric looking at it. I'm looking at where I sewed and stitched. And I allow a little bit for the cutting part. Okay. Just put it right on there to size it up. Okay. And you can use any rotary mat that you got. If you got a round one, that's fine too. I just didn't want to have to pick up the fabric. That's the reason for that. Okay. Then it doesn't get distorted and the size isn't off and all that kind of good stuff. Alrighty. Now I'm going to take it over there. Whoops. And I'm going to go ahead and iron it open. And then what I was also going to say is that if you do any kind of starching on your fabric, if that's what you do, then you want to do that all before you do your stitching and everything else, okay? It'll make your fabric a little bit stiff, but as soon as you've washed your fabric, that'll come out. But that's really the purpose for it, is so that it's stiffer for you and it's easier stitching, especially when you start out. That's the best. Sometimes I find that I have to spray just the part where I start stitching. Okay, set that aside. Let me iron these open and I'll be right back. Okay, so I ironed them open. Now, what I did first, in case you're new to this, and I guess I should have went and showed it, but you take your fabric and it's laying like this. You take your iron, you set it down on it, you press it. Now, I'm not using a hot iron, because if you own the Alicio, and I will show you the iron, this iron right here, if you own one of these irons, okay, you can have the setting up at linen cotton, which is the hottest, and it is not a hot iron. When I say not a hot iron, my other iron, I'm going to get it over here to show you, which I'm not using currently, is this right here. It's a Rowena, made in Germany. Now this thing gets hot, and when you put it on hot, you could literally scorch your project without realizing it. So after you press it, you open it up, and when it's referred to the dark side, it's not referring to a dark of anything. What it's referring to is the color that is the darkest compared to your white or your background. And in this case, my dark side is actually this white fabric because it has print on it. And it hides, most times, it'll hide the fabric underneath it. You've seen projects where, let's see, they're like two whites. And you've got two, or a cream and a white, or a white on white and a white. No matter which side you iron it to, there's not really a dark side. You would probably put it to your white on white, but you will literally see it through the fabric like that. See how you can see that through the fabric? Put it down here. You can see this through the fabric if I had ironed it on that side. But since I ironed it on this side, it's more difficult to see it through the fabric. And that's the purpose for that. Here is the block, and I was just reading some directions there. It said we're gonna take all of these and make them 2 3/4, which is 2.75. There's so many different ways to say it, but let me show you how I do it with my regular ruler. So here I've marked it off with the washi tape just so that you can see how I marked it. So I went down 1 2 3/4, and I went over 1 2 3/4, and I put my tape so that I can see the line, because if you know me, I want to be able to see the line. And then you take your diagonal line and you put it on your seam, just like this. And I always take off the least amount that I can. So I'll put it on my line. Be real careful. And then I'll go up here. And this little bitty spinning mat is easier to hold on to because it's so small. Okay, let's do this. And now I'll take it to the corner here, which is down here. And you're going to see on this ruler, and this is the reason I love these rulers. And I'll be taking this washi tape off. I'm just showing this for an example. See? And then it's along the edge right here. And then I have some to trim off there and some to trim off there. So go this way. And then go this way. Just take that off. And let's see if you can even, I'm going to show you on the ruler here. See that little thing right there? That's where I make sure my fabric is setting before I cut it. And then I know that it is correct. And that's how I do it with these Creative Grids rulers. Now, the advantage of this is that this cream color, let me back you up a little bit here. So the cream color that you see in here, the little frosted, that gets locked in to your little thing here. Let me flip it to this side right here. Your fabric that's folded over, that's what you're going to put it in. Like this. Because it locks right in there. The only difference is you're going to do it on this side, not the other side. And you'll put that in there. And then you'll go down to here. And it's 2 3/4. And I think I got it backwards. Okay, that you can't do. You cannot do this backwards. Okay. So that is going to be the 2 3/4. And you can take this on top and find out that that's correct. Turn it the same exact way. This is what I do. And it's going to fit on there. But remember now, I take off a little bit first. Okay, so I got it up at the 3. See the 3 inches right there? Let me turn this whole thing for you. There we go. So there's 3 inches and here's 3 inches. And I'm going to take this little piece off and this little piece off at the top. And then I'll come down to my 2 3/4. And like I said, you can mark this with washi tape so that you're actually on the 3/4 inch mark, which is right there. And then, and actually my board needs to be bigger because it should not be hanging off like that. And I'm going to match it up and make sure it's correct. And it is. And you can see that. And I always want to make sure that my 3/4 inch is on the line, okay? And also, if you'll notice, and let me get my little thing here. Here's the frosted that you can see, and you're aiming for it to go from here to here. Not this one, this one. So keep in mind, I've put my block lock so that wherever I folded my fabric and ironed it, which is on the right side, that's where it goes into the groove. If I had done it the other way, it would not have come out right. This would not have come out on the point, and that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get it on the point. I know that's a lot of information for people that are new. A lot of information. Okay, there we go. And now we have 2 of them. Okay? And that's all you got to do. Just take your time. And if you're, you know, lots of people are leery to start their first block. They go, oh my gosh, what if I make a mistake? Well, you know what? This is why you have scraps. Make yourself a practice block of something else. You know, sew the 2 pieces together, make a half square triangle, and then downsize them. And then when you got it down and you understand it and you figured it out, then go ahead and do all of yours. All right, and I'll come back and do all of mine at the tail end when I'm done, just so that it's a repetitious type of thing that I'm doing. All right, that's it for now. Let me go ahead and continue. All righty, I got it laid out here. Now they're calling the top, that's row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. I'm going to call it 3 rows, and the reason I'm calling it 3 rows is we're going to sew these 4 together. We're going to sew these 2, then these 2, and connect them to this to make 1 row, and then this last row. Keep in mind, it's supposed to be row 1, 2, 3, 4, but you cannot sew these separately. They have to be sewn together before you connect them to the big square. All right? So let me go ahead and let's just get started on that. We're going to take our time. If you need to pin, go ahead and pin. I am not going to pin. So I'm doing the 2 left ones, the 2 right ones, and then I'll combine them. I'm just taking my time. If you're used to doing this and there's another way you want to do it, then by all means do it whatever way you want to do it. I'm taking it slow and easy. And all the blocks are going to be sewn the same exact way. And now we're going to sew the 2 together that are actually going to make a flying goose. So you're going to take one of your fabrics and you're going to turn it the opposite direction because these need to nestle. So I'm going to take the whiter one, the one with the little pink petals, I guess you call them, little flowers, and I'm ironing it the opposite direction. Let me show you here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take these. I ironed this one that direction, and that one's that direction. Now we have to nestle these. So we're going to put them right up against each other, and then we're going to sew down this end right here where it's white to white. Well, like this. So when you open it, it looks like that. Alrighty. So nestle it first to how you want it. Line up your blocks. I will not put a pin in, but this is pretty good. I can see that it's matching up. And then I'm just going to sew it. Just like this. Or well, maybe I better pull it up a little bit more. There we go. I tell you, this fabric is so soft. It's almost a pain in the keister to sew because it is very slippery. Let's see if it works here. I know you got to go real slow when you got a bump like that, because if you don't, that's going to really jam your sewing machine. Well, of course, now I don't have my plate with the single circle. I have it for a zigzag and doing other stitches. So if you have it on a single circle, then it probably won't affect it. All right, now we're going to open them and take a look at them. Normally I wouldn't iron them at this point. I'm just going to go ahead and attach these two, but first I want to make sure that they are correct before I even do that. Okay, so now I have my two little sets here. So it's two of one and two of another. And I'm just slowly putting them together. And then that's row one. Now there's row one, because it had the flying geese going down. This is going to be a flying geese here when it gets put together, and then these two in the middle. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to sew these two together and these two together, and then I'll put them on each end of that. It's not really a right way or a wrong way, but the way that I do it is I always want to be able to see this little piece right here, this little piece right there, because I don't like to have that upside down. I don't want my needle to come across here and flip that up by accident. So that's the right side. Now I'm going to do the left side. Make sure you got your seam ripper out just in case you do it incorrectly, so you can take it apart. All right, so these two are sewn together, and these two. And now we're going to take them and we're going to sew them like that. So it goes down this side, so there's no marking now at this point. I'm going to pin the one end on this because it's going to flip up on me if I don't. It never fails when I try to test it there and not put a pin. Sure enough, the darn thing flips. So I'm not even going to test it today. Not since I had camera issues first thing when I started doing this video. All right, so here we go. Hopefully my hands are not in the way. I try not to actually sew over your pins, because if you do, you know, worst case scenario is you've damaged your sewing machine. Or you can break your needle, bend your pen, you know, all kinds of things. Here we go. That's the one side. Now we're going to put the other one on. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark it because it's exactly the same as the first way. Alright, let's take a look at it. That's looking nice. So let's go ahead and we're going to do this row right here. I tell you what, it's a good thing this comes in a kit, because these colors blend in so much and they change. So from one fabric to another one, and I'm going to show you when I get done, because I noticed that, you know, I'm trying to look at the picture and I'm trying to do this too, and it looks confusing. Okay, so I started it and it jammed, so I stopped. I'm not putting starch on it. I just literally flipped it upside down after I marked it, and I'm going to have to come the other direction. And this is the one where I needed to re-iron the flowered, the one with the pink flowers, because we had to nestle this piece. So now we're going to connect the two sets together. You just have to go really slow when I start out, so I don't have any jamming going on. There we go. And then we're going to lay this, which is the last row. Okay, so that is the way that it's going to turn out. It is correct. It's got that sort of like a star, if you can see it. But anyway, so let me go ahead and I'm going to connect the rows. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this one and sew it to that one. Now, this is where we have to do the marking, because we don't want to lose our tips here. And when we create this one, we're actually going to create it, but we don't want to lose our tips when we create it, because this will end up being a tip, because this, when it gets done, is just like this one. And I'll show you here how to mark it. All right, you can see the threads right here that overcross each other. Okay, and so you want to stay above where it crossed. So this is what I'm doing, is I'm marking this. So that side is marked, but now we need to mark this side. Nestle these. We have to nestle this. Let's see if we can get it to focus. It's nestle, and it's make sure it goes right here to the point. All right. This one lined up pretty good there. Just put a pin in it. And then just go down here. You're not nestling this one with anything. You're just making sure that you turn the thickness of the bulk of the fabric. This one wants to go to the right, so I'm taking that one to the left. Nestling it like that. Putting my pin in it. On this side, which is where it will flip over. And that's it. Okay, just like that. Alrighty, so we're going to be putting row 1, which is the top one with the little 4 blocks on it, to the second row. Uh-oh, see, it jammed. And I was going slow. Now, since it did that, instead of starting at the end, I'm going to come down a little bit and start. And then when I'm done, I'll come back and go over that. I don't know why it did it, but like I said, this fabric is so soft. It really has some issues by being so soft. Okay, let's see if I need, this is going to need a little help. All right, let's get, there we go. And watch this one. There we go. There we go. Now we're going to flip it over, and then we'll start back where we've already sewn. Just back in here, and then we'll just sew straight off of the fabric. There we go. Alrighty, the tips did really good on both. And now we're going to do the same thing with this one, and we're going to mark it also, just like we did before. So we're going to put this last row together, and I'm going to start off the edge here. All is said and done. Put an iron to it. The natives are getting restless down here. I have no idea what time it is. I started early this morning. Had at least 15-20 minutes problems with this camera and the lighting too. I don't know how it switched to some other kind of lighting on it. That I do know, so this one won't be like all the other lightings. I think it switched it over to studio lighting. It had a whole bunch of different varieties. And then after I got it off of that, I couldn't even figure out how to get it back on the camera part. But now, as you go along and you eventually get used to doing all the marking and all that, sometimes you'll forget to mark, and then, I'm talking about in the future while you've been doing this quite a while, and then all of a sudden, pow, you'll have gone over it and then went, oh darn, I didn't mark it, and then you take a look at it and it's perfect. So I don't know what that's about when that happens, but it does happen. It just, I mean, it's almost like your eye just gets trained to a point that it gets trained, and then it just goes so that it goes over the mark and you didn't even know it. So let's get this iron and take a look at it. Alrighty, here's all of our blocks for the first 2 weeks. Next week on Monday is the last week. We'll assemble it and then we'll have it finished. So we've got it for the summertime. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you'd like to make a comment, you can. And I'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Okay, this is just a little something extra. For all of those that find that this video was hard, now this is why I put this at the tail end of my video. The only people that are going to see this are going to be the diehards that want to go to the very end, or curiosity, people that are curious. Now me, I watch when I watch a video, I watch it from the very beginning all the way to the end because I don't want to miss anything on it. I don't know what they're going to put at the end of it. This is why I'm adding this to the end. You don't want to watch it, you don't have to. But after I showed you how to make those blocks, I turned around and made them a different way because for me, it was a lot faster. And I like to make my geese, the tips of their heads, I want to make them perfect. Going by the way that I taught you the first time around, which is the way that you put the rows, you put the first row, then you put the next two, you sew it to the square, and then you do the last one. That doesn't make those flying geese perfect. They are off a little bit here and there. So let me show you what I did. Now you don't have to do this, but if you haven't even done anything yet, or you don't even have your kit, or you're going to do it in the future, you could do it this way. Now it's sort of learning Y seams, but not, because when you do a Y seam, well, when I do a Y seam, I should say, I don't know about anybody else, but I actually mark it 1/4 of an inch from the end of where you would be sewing it. I'm not even going to show you how to do a Y seam, okay? So this is for somebody who's kind of like thinking outside the box. So first, I went ahead and I made all the flying geese. I attached a little 2 3/4 inch squares to them. I'm going to show you, it's laying down here. And I sewed my first strip on, which I will explain it to you, and then I'm going to show you how I do it, because I literally go right around in the square. Okay? Let's turn this video around and I'll show you. First off, you see it laying here. I have this sewn together, this sewn together. Now this is the way the layout is. It's laid out like this. So they're all sewn together. So I sewed these together first, made the perfect little ends. Then I sewed this on. Did the same thing. Then I took my square, I took the top row, now not the top row based on the picture, the top starting with what would have met against this block, which is this little square. And this is the strip that I sewed right here, the 3 pieces. I attached these 2 to this, and I left this separate, okay? So on a Y seam, you would actually leave 1/4 inch. I just left a little bit more. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to take this one, I'm going to attach it to this and leave it here at the bottom. Well, actually, I'm not even going to leave it at the bottom. I'm going to go like this. And I mark it, you know, I go ahead and mark my tips and everything. Put it on there and sew it and stop. All the way down the whole seam. Then take this one. After I've sewed this whole thing, I'm going to take this one, which I can start here, and I will sew it to here and stop. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'll show you me doing it, because it won't take that long. But I found that this takes me a lot less time than the other way to do it. So I'm just throwing this out there for you. You don't have to do it this way. All right, so what I'm doing, the piece on there, so I can make sure that I've got it nestled. Go ahead and I'm going to mark it after I've got it pinned. I don't even use my ruler, I'm just marking it here. And then I check out the tip, looks good. And then I go to the next piece of fabric. Here's the strip, and I lay it on here and repeat the process. And the reason I didn't teach it this way to begin with is because a lot of people will find this very hard, being like a Y seam. That kind of freaks people out. They don't want to do it. I mean, they see it and they go, oh, I can't do it. But I'm just letting you know, it's a lot faster and easier for me to do it this way. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start here at the bottom, just like before. Now we're coming to the last one. My tip looks good there also. And this is why we left that little end down there. We left that open because now we're going to close it. I'm going to start at the end. Let's take this here. A little scraggly right here. Mark that. And now that leaves us with this piece right here. I'm going to show you over here on the board so you have a better idea what it looks like. Alrighty, so here's what we've done. We sewed this one, this one, this one, down to that. Here's the piece. This was the last piece. Sewed the whole thing on. Now you take this, you fold it over like that, and then we're going to pin this on here, just like I've been doing. Nestle it just like that. Pin it up. Oops, sorry about that. Pin on the end. I think this block took about 10 to 15 minutes this way. And that's it. We're going to start up here and go down. Let me go ahead and mark it. Well, I got it right here. So it's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just sew all the way down there. And then the whole entire block will be complete, and that'll be it. And it didn't take any time at all to get this one done. Okay. Oops, I see what I did though. I boo-booed. Uh-oh, I need to take something out. Hold on one second. Alrighty, now the flying geese are going the correct way. They're headed that way. I had it headed that way. So now we're going to finish sewing it together. So we're going to put this side together and I'll pin it. Not pin it, but I'll mark it just like I showed you before. So here's the part at the very beginning that we left off. Okay, here's our square. And we stopped here on the square and left this off. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn the fabric here and we're going to sew it like that. We're just going to pin it. I've already got it marked here. I have it marked right there. Can barely see it, the thread's in the way. There you go. And then we're just going to start sewing right here and just go right across that seam to the end. Now it doesn't hurt to go over the same thing, you know, when you're sewing. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of rows of thread over thread. Doesn't hurt a thing. Just reinforces it, that's all. When we're finished, we'll take a look at the blocks. Now all I have to do is iron it. I'll put them all up here on the design board so you can see them, and we're finished. And I want to thank all of you that stayed here towards the tail end and found out how I did that last block right there. I even like the way the back of that came out. It came out better on the back for ironing purposes than all the rest of them did. Just a little information there. I like the way this flower here is drooping too. That's pretty neat. I really like that. I like these blue colors right here. I like all of those colors. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Bye-bye, and welcome to all the new people.